Remember the thrill of making a trip to your favorite theme park? Countless parks have opened their gates, thrilled millions, and then, sadly, closed their doors forever. Here are 20 old theme parks you once loved that no longer exist. Our first stop is the Sunshine State. Can you believe that before there was Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach, there was Disney's River Country? That's right, the very first water park at Walt Disney World. And it wasn't just Walt Disney's first water creation, it was arguably the world's first major water park. Disney's River Country opened its doors in 1976 and was a splash hit for years. Located next to Fort Wilderness Campground and part of Bay Lake, Disney's River Country was designed as an old-fashioned swimming hole. The park was packed with classic water attractions like the Upstream Plunge, a natural spring-fed pool, and the Whoopin' Holler Hollow, a pair of twisting water slides that were as thrilling as they were iconic. The Slippery Slide Falls and Bay Cove were other guest favorites. The success of this theme park inspired Disney to build Typhoon Lagoon, which opened its gates in 1989, and Blizzard Beach, which opened in 1995. These flashier parks overshadowed River Country, and Disney closed and abandoned it in 2001. Now, let's head to the West Coast. Before Disneyland dominated the California amusement park scene, there was Pacific Ocean Park. This sea-themed amusement park in Santa Monica opened its doors in 1958, intending to rival Disneyland. It was a mix of thrilling rides, marine exhibits, and Hollywood-style attractions that were fairly new for the area. This park was featured in many films throughout the 60s, and our very own Elvis Presley walked the pier in Viva Las Vegas. The best attraction of this park was the various themed areas, as each offered a unique experience. There was the infamous Neptune's Kingdom that housed an underwater ride, and there was the Sea Serpent roller coaster that looped over the ocean. One of the park's most iconic attractions was the Westinghouse Enchanted Forest, which was a walk-through experience featuring animatronic animals and fairy tale scenes. But you know what they say, there's no place more magical than Disney, and because of the tough competition, Pacific Ocean Park had to close its gates for good. Before The Wizard of Oz simply existed as a classic on our screens, you could experience its magic for yourself at the Land of Oz in the mountains of North Carolina. Opening in 1970, this park was dedicated to the classic 1939 film The Wizard of Oz, and it offered visitors a chance to walk down the yellow brick road, meet beloved characters, and experience the magic of Oz firsthand. This was straight out of the dreams of every Ozian out there. I mean, name a better way to spend your vacation than walking through a replica of Dorothy's house, complete with the tornado experience that would transport guests to the Land of Oz. Count me in. There were life-sized versions of the Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Cowardly Lion, and the guests were guided by Dorothy herself. However, this magic couldn't last for long, as a devastating fire destroyed most of the park in 1975. But hey, if you want to visit this magical theme park for yourself, it's been rebuilt and is open several times a year for Autumn at Oz and Journey with Dorothy. If you're a Texan, your parents must remember the adventures of AstroWorld. Yeah, this park shaped the childhoods of almost every family that lived in Texas in the 70s. It was opened in 1968 by none other than Judge Roy Hofheinz, and the park was initially part of the larger Astrodomain complex, which included the famous Astrodome. One of the park's standout features was its diverse range of attractions. This was the first time Texans had seen a wooden roller coaster, which was so fun that it was named the best in the country. Plus, there was this unique alpine sleigh ride which took guests on a chilling journey through a snow-covered mountain. AstroWorld had something for everyone, regardless of age. And this park was also famous for hosting concerts and festivals, which made it a cultural hub for Houstonians. Sadly, all good things come to an end, and so did AstroWorld, who failed to keep up with the increasing operational costs in the early 2000s. Ohio wasn't behind on its attractions either, and Geauga Lake was one of the USA's most famous theme parks in the last 19th century. So, this one originally started out as a small picnic and recreation area in Aurora, Ohio, but it soon grew into a full-fledged amusement park, complete with thrilling rides, a water park, and even a wildlife park. What more could one ask for? This wasn't just a theme park. Geauga Lake became a summer tradition for many Ohioan families. Key Park's attractions ranged from classic wooden roller coasters like the Big Dipper, which opened in 1925, to more modern thrill rides like the Dominator, a steel coaster with heart-pounding loops and twists. Plus, the lakeside made it famous among nature enthusiasts too. But with the opening of Cedar Point in 1980, Geauga Lake had no choice but to become a fragment of all our memories. Can you imagine that the world's biggest amusement park was also a lost hero of the past? Yeah. Riverview Park was a major attraction in Chicago for over 6 decades and was once billed as the world's largest amusement park. Now, unless you're over 60, have grandparents who like to reminisce, or are an avid student of local history, my guess is that you've never heard of the place. Although it began life in 1902 as a skeet shooting range for local residents, Riverview Park in Chicago quickly pivoted to amusements in order to appeal to a wider range of customers. In the 1950s, it became all the rage in the world of amusement parks. However, by the mid-1960s, it was a completely different story, thanks to real estate taxes. One of Riverview's most famous attractions was the Bob's, a wooden roller coaster that was not only a local favorite, but also recognized nationwide for its speed and thrilling drops. And in case you're wondering what became of it, Riverview Park is now a shopping center? So, Dogpatch USA was a theme park in the Ozark Mountains of Arkansas based on the popular Lil Abner comic strip by Al Cap. This one brought the fictional town of Dogpatch to life with characters like Daisy May, Mammy Yokum, and the hillbilly hero, Lil Abner. The best part? It featured a variety of attractions that reflected the comic strip's themes. Visitors could ride the Earthquake Magoon's Brain Rattler, a wild and bumpy roller coaster, or take a relaxing float down the Lil Abner River, a lazy river ride that showcased the beauty of the Ozark landscape. But as the comic strip started losing popularity, so did the park. Yeah, this park could only operate for a short 25 years from 1968 to 1993. If you want to learn more about it, a documentary about Dogpatch USA by Jeff Carter Productions was released in May 2018. I'm sure you've heard of the Joyland amusement park. For many decades, it served as the go-to destination for fun and excitement in Wichita, Kansas. The park was home to iconic attractions like the Joyland roller coaster and the flying trapeze ride, which was a favorite among thrill seekers. It was founded in 1949 by Lester Ottaway to house a miniature 12-inch gauge steam locomotive. After Lester Ottaway's death in the mid-1950s, his 3 sons, Herbert, Harold, and Eddie, continued running the park. The park's 1949 wooden roller coaster was one of the last surviving original wooden coasters. Now, if you feel like you've seen this park before, it was captured on the cover of the Andy McKee album Joyland. Next up, we have the Palisades Amusement Park. So before Coney Island became the talk of the town, Palisades Amusement Park was New York's main attraction in terms of theme parks. It was a nice break from the concrete jungle for city dwellers as it overlooked the Hudson River and was close in proximity to New York City. Originally, it had been a simple picnic ground, with tables and benches, refreshment concessions, and a breathtaking view of Manhattan. By 1908, it had added a carousel, various rides, a Wild West show, and numerous other attractions. The park's attractions ranged from classic wooden roller coasters like the Big Dipper, which opened in 1925, to more modern thrill rides like the Dominator, a steel coaster with heart-pounding loops and twists. Palisades Amusement Park was host to kings and queens, rich and poor alike. At the famed open-air theater, the top entertainers of the day performed for record crowds. During the big band era, the talent included such classic performers as Benny Goodman's big band, Cab Calloway, Les Brown and his orchestra, Harry James, and the Dorsey Brothers. Back in the day, Six Flags New Orleans was known as Jazzland. It was a latecomer to the theme park scene, opening in 2000 as part of the Six Flags chain. Here's the thing about this one. Just like all the other theme parks on the list, this one used to be an exciting vacation spot for families from around the country. With exciting rides and live entertainment, this park had everything to offer. Fast forward to today, it's infested with alligators and has broken rides, dilapidated hot dog stands, and graffitied bathrooms. In simpler words, it's abandoned, and that's because it was one of the many casualties of Hurricane Katrina. And don't even get me started on all the spooky stories Reddit's filled with about this theme park. Abandoned theme park on the outskirts of New Orleans. I'm sure you've seen enough of the Vampire Diaries to do the math. Now, not all amusement parks were themed after famous TV shows and movies. Freedomland USA was the perfect balance of fun and history. Yeah, this attraction in the Bronx, New York celebrated American history and culture through immersive attractions and live performances. It featured various themed areas representing different periods in American history, from colonial times to the Wild West. It opened in 1960 and operated for a short period of 4 years before it filed for bankruptcy. The park's Living History Museum was one of its most popular attractions, as it recreated historical events and scenes with actors and interactive exhibits. Visitors could also explore New York's Main Street, a replica of a 19th century city, or take a ride on the General Grant steam locomotive, which provided a scenic tour of the park's themed areas. Ghost Town in the Sky was a Western-themed park in the Great Smoky Mountains of North Carolina. This one was centered around the old days of the Wild West and was built to pay homage to Western culture. So, this park opened in 1961 and quickly became one of the busiest theme parks in the country, but it wasn't until 2007 that this one started making rounds on the internet. Hear me out. The park closed in 2002 and reopened briefly in 2007. When its doors were welcoming visitors again, a lot of people started complaining of paranormal activity, and this town earned the name of Ghost Town. It closed again in 2009, but you can still visit the abandoned land if your itinerary in North Carolina is ever running short. You might think that with all there is to accomplish on such a vacation, checking out an abandoned property would either be at the bottom of the list or not on it at all. But since this is an old theme park, the eerie factor might just be enough to draw in a visitor. Rocky Point Amusement Park was more than just a fun day out. It was a New England institution. Located on the scenic shores of Warwick, Rhode Island, this park had everything you could want: thrilling rides, tasty treats, and a gorgeous view of Narragansett Bay. It was one of the oldest amusement parks in the U.S., but it never felt old-fashioned. The Cyclone roller coaster was a legend in its own right, giving riders a thrilling experience with breathtaking views of the water. For the little ones, there was the classic carousel, spinning them into a world of wonder. Back in the day, seaside amusement parks were all the rage, but changing times and tastes led to their decline. Rocky Point was as famous for its world's largest shore dinner hall, which featured signature clam cakes and clam chowder, as it was for its coasters and other rides. Today, the property is a state-run park, where faint echoes of the amusements remain. Now, let's talk about Legend City, Arizona's bold attempt to compete with Disneyland. This Phoenix-based amusement park opened its gates in 1963, aiming to capture the magic of the Old West while offering all the thrills of a modern amusement park. Legend City wasn't just about cowboys and shootouts, though. It had all the classic rides you'd expect from a top-tier amusement park. The Thunderbolt roller coaster was a favorite, with enough twists and turns to satisfy any adrenaline junkie. Then there was Frontier Town, where you could step back in time and experience life in the Wild West, complete with gunfights and cowboy banter. Unfortunately, it couldn't compete with the magic of Disney and closed down in 1983 after 2 decades of ups and downs. And next up, we're traveling to Boston, where Lincoln Park was the place to be for family fun for nearly a century. This Massachusetts park wasn't just any amusement park. It was the go-to for generations. Whether it was the iconic wooden carousel or the thrilling roller coasters, Lincoln Park had something for everyone. But it wasn't just about the rides. Lincoln Park was also famous as a community gathering spot. It operated from 1894 to 1987 and was known as a trolley park because the Union Street Railway Company operated Lincoln Park as a way to generate revenue on the weekends when commuters weren't using its trains to travel to and from work or to shop. Great things often come in small packages, and Bushkill Park is a perfect example. This one opened in 1902 And while it didn't have any towering roller coasters like the larger parks, what it lacked in size, it made up for in charm. Bushkill Park was known for its laid-back experience without the hustle and bustle of a typical theme park. It had an old-school appeal. Think vintage rides like the Whip and the Caterpillar, plus a carousel that took you right back to the early 1900s. And for those who loved skating, the park's rink was a hotspot for locals. But of course, simplicity doesn't win all the time, and this park lost out to the high-speed thrills of flashier parks. Once upon a time in Ellicott City, Maryland, there was a magical place called the Enchanted Forest. Opening in 1955, this park was straight out of a storybook, literally. It brought to life all the classic fairy tales we grew up with. Imagine wandering through scenes from Alice in Wonderland or visiting the Three Little Pigs at their straw, stick, and brick houses. The Enchanted Forest was a dream come true for kids and a nostalgic trip for parents. Every corner of the park was filled with whimsy, from the life-size characters to the themed play areas where kids could immerse themselves in the stories they loved. Even the most enchanting tales eventually reached their final chapter, and we had to say goodbye to this one earlier than we wanted to. Chippewa Lake Park was one of Ohio's best-kept secrets. Located on the shores of Chippewa Lake, it had a remarkable run, operating for over 100 years from its opening in 1878 until it closed in 1978. For generations of Ohioans, it was a beloved destination for summer fun. What made Chippewa Lake Park special was its unique blend of natural beauty and classic amusement park attractions. Think of a peaceful boat ride across the lake after a thrilling spin on the park's wooden roller coaster. Sounds good, doesn't it? The Tumblebug was another fan favorite, offering just the right amount of excitement for both kids and adults. Well, it's not up for visits anymore, so you'll have to stick to your local Six Flags for all the fun. Fontaine Ferry Park in Louisville, Kentucky, was more than just an amusement park. It was an institution. It quickly became the go-to spot for entertainment in the region after opening in 1905. With its combination of thrilling rides, beautiful gardens, and a lively dance hall, Fontaine Ferry had something for everyone. The park's Big Dipper roller coaster was a major attraction, drawing thrill-seekers from all around. But it wasn't just about the rides. Fontaine Ferry was known for its social events, particularly in its famous dance hall. The park was a hub for music and dancing, making it a favorite destination for young couples and families alike. Let's wrap up our journey with one of the oldest amusement parks in the United States, Whalom Park in Lunenburg, Massachusetts. Opening way back in 1893, Whalom Park had a remarkable run of over 100 years. It was the kind of place where you could spend an entire day with the family, enjoying classic rides, games, and lakeside picnics. Whalom was famous for its Comet roller coaster, which offered thrilling rides for generations. But it wasn't just about the big attractions. The park had a charming mix of old-fashioned rides, from carousels to Ferris wheels, all set against the backdrop of the beautiful Whalom Lake. It was the kind of place where memories were made, and families returned year after year. So, which one of these abandoned theme parks would have been at the top of your family vacation list? If so, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and let's keep those memories alive.